How are you?
I'm keeping. I mean, I'm trying to keep all these Republicans and conservatives up over here, man.
Yeah. One of the things that I've noticed that a lot of people have missed, and that is the fact that we're watching, I've said it 2 or 3 times, we're watching the USA Inc., the USA Corporation, being dismantled. And there's a lot of Americans go, well, everything's collapsing. Yes, it is. And I watched four videos last night of the history of Donald Trump from the 1970s. 1970s, 1980s, 1990s. The foundations of the man. And his little ventures into casinos in Atlantic City, what he came up against, how he dealt with it, how he dealt with people, how he dealt with failure. And he's actually very good at dealing with failure. He pretends it's not happening. Now, there's a lot of people out there who go, well, that's just stupid. No, some people believe they're winning when they're not winning. That's a mindset. Some people believe they're losing when they're winning. They would be no good for this job. Right now, you have got a man that knows how to make America feel strong about themselves when they're falling apart. Because the old system, the Federal Reserve, the IMF, the IRS, the whole group of 3-letter agencies are falling apart. And they're being dismantled on purpose by the good guys. Now, I was asked to sort of be a bit quieter about what the safety net that's already here for the financial system and for the People's Republic of America. And I added the word yes on the end. The People's Republic America, yes. Because that adds up to pray. You need to pray for guidance right now as we move away from an old system to a new Republic of America. And that's what's happening. Now, I'm privileged to know what's going on behind the scenes in a lot of areas. Everything has been done with the new system. But that doesn't take away from the pain and suffering that's going on right now as we go through the transition. And as every woman will tell you, the most painful part of giving birth is just before. That's at the worst point. And then the most joyous point is seconds later when the baby is born. We will come into that at the right time. I saw a very I like my golf, as most of my audience know. I watched a lovely interview with Scotty Scheffler, who won a recent competition, but is a God-fearing man. And he said, the first priority in my life is God and my family. And he said, once I'd won everything and become number one in the world, I thought, then what? Then what? I've got there. And I would encourage everybody watching this to enjoy the journey. Because when we get there, yeah, it'll be amazing, but the journey is by far and away the best part of this. You were chosen for this journey to watch the old system collapse in real time and to enjoy the birth of a new system. And it's such a privilege to see. And for me, the entertainment, the sideshow, is what's happening with the fighting in the world. Israel, exposure. Everything is being exposed. The light is exposing the darkness. We're starting to see everything clearly. And for those people who questioned me and Derek at the start 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I'm not going to say we told you so, because you know that. But everything that Derek laid out 5 years ago turns out to be true, because it was based on fact. Derek and I were both called conspiracy theorists. We wear that badge with honour. Nobody called us a liar. And I had a little bit of fun today, because I've been explaining to the world about the dangers of spraying on sun lotion, and my wife was like, she always covers herself lays out in the sun. And I saw a video the other day that the stuff that we use, banana boat, 100 factor. You lighter, and you spray it. It's like a flamethrower. My daughter phoned me up because she don't believe anything I say. She said, we've tried it at home, it doesn't work. So I said to Justin, go upstairs and we got one in the cupboard. Let's try it and let's check and see if Charlie's full of shit or not. We did it live with my daughter. We lit a lighter and then we sprayed it. We nearly blew the house up. A flame come out about 4 foot long.
Charlie, yeah. I take it Nacelle wasn't around when you did this.
No, she's away. We'd never get away with it if she was here. Don't be silly. She's Turkish. Turkey's not just for Christmas around here. Anyway, that's my bit of entertainment, and it's important that the other thing, we're seeing all this posturing. We're seeing this posturing around the world. America, we're the world's leader. We're this, we're that. This is all coming to an end. All of this, we're the best. You know, it did make me laugh that America has lost their place in the world rankings of obesity to Qatar. You can't even win that one. But when it comes to healthcare, you have to go way outside. But the bullying that's going on with Russia don't need nuclear weapons. The other thing that just resounds with me is correct me if I'm wrong, I do not understand anybody who would listen to somebody from America telling me to give up nuclear weapons when you have them, and you're the only country in history that's ever used them in aggression. Maybe I'm wrong, but that doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm sure that doesn't make any sense to Putin or Xi Jinping. That you suddenly tell everybody they've got to give up theirs, and we can't see any in Israel. We've never seen any there. And no, ours are good ones. This is time to wake up to common sense, see where we're really at, but enjoy the journey. And my job is to bring you the truth. So is Derek, so that you can enjoy the journey. Welcome, Derek. Good to see you, buddy.
Good to be here.
So what have you found out in the last week or so?
Well, we found out who the real President Trump supporters are and who aren't. And we're talking about, I'm mainly focused on influencers as well. We are moving into a new era where people can, but again, people have to decipher. You control your own emotions, and you're speaking about golf. Golf is all on you on the golf course, nobody else. It's all on your preparation, everything. Now, a lot of people may not know this, but I was captain of my golf team in high school. And I was a 2 handicap, and I took a music scholarship over a golf scholarship, which I think my dad almost killed me back then. But I did. I had a ride to Alabama, and I had a ride to another little college in Alabama back then. That's been 23 years ago now, but I think it turned out okay. But still, on the golf course, and I'll tell one of my favorite golf stories ever is Tiger Woods. And I had every Golf Digest. I still have them. I had every Golf Digest that Tiger Woods ever appeared in when he first started. My dad had told me about him before he ever went to Stanford. So college, ladies and gentlemen. So this was when he was in high school. And so I was following him. His mental preparation was there. And, you know, he's gotten older. He's had a lot of injuries and things of that nature. But there's one particular story that I love the most, I think, that defines my attitude with what's going on right now. Is no matter, and this applies to life too, no matter what you're going through in life, it's your attitude that makes you get through these things. And if you learn that early on, then the better you're going to be. And so Tiger was in this golf tournament, and this was when his caddy was Steve Williams, his former caddy from New Zealand. And I had a family member that actually was buddies with Steve. So this was even cooler, knowing how Steve's personality was. And he said, I knew how to motivate Tiger during the tournament. And if it worked, it worked. If it didn't, well, no need to even tell about it. But he said, we read on this last stretch, he said Tiger was down. He was down 2 or 3 shots. I have to go back and look at the exact number, but he was down 2 or 3 shots with about 6 to play. And he said, Ty, you ever notice whenever so-and-so's makes a putt, see his little girlfriend over there, she's just a clapping and a smiling and a giggling? And he was like, pissed him off, right? And so he said he threw the club down. He said he went on hole 17, he went 1 shot up to take the lead. He said when he walked off, when he made the putt, he walked off. He said he strategically did this to me. He said he walked by me, threw the putter at me, all in one motion, slapped me on the ass and said, she ain't smiling now. And walked straight to number 18. Now, that's my attitude. That's what I try to tell people is that President Trump, people forgetting one thing about President Trump. Everybody's forgetting one big thing. Right when he looks like he's going to lose, he's going to win. And everybody's looking at this whole operation as 45-47. It's not. 45-47 is the whole operation. All right. And when we get done with 47, then you'll be able to see the fruits of the labor, as I call it, meaning like things like you see a set of wheels on a train, right? They got the little things like this. Everybody will be in the same heartbeat, right? And sometimes you got to go through these things. You got to separate the wheat from the chaff. You got to see who's really willing to stick through certain things with you. Now, I'm not saying they're doing all this on purpose either, but Mr. Charlie knows this better than anybody, and Paul and different people who've been in business. In business, not only are you seeing the clean out going on right now, but you got to find out who's willing to be passionate and also understand the program and get in and want to do these things in the future. The whole goal is not just to clean it out. The whole goal is to maintain and sustain this on the flip side, right? And that means everybody in the world too, because the trade deals are part of this. Other nations are a part of this. They're independent on their own, but we're all still making deals together. So you got to find people, when they clean these people out, you got to find people who want to be in these positions that got cleaned out. But they have to do what? Abide by the new rules, the new procedures, the quality assurance, whatever those things, whatever terms you want to use. They got to get in those positions, but they got to want to be there for the right reasons as well. And so that's what you've been watching. You've not only been watching the clean out, you got to get in and implement these things. New systems require tech skills, technicians, engineers, you name it. So when they're changing these systems, because we're never leaving digital, we're not leaving that. So you got to think about all these things outside of just the clean out. So, you know, and the same thing with military. In the National Defense Authorization Acts, which are defense budgets, it shows in there some allocations for mental health for military. You know, you got to think about all the military, what they've been going through, and how high strung, high stress, full go. You know, that we'll go 3-4 weeks on a mission nonstop, sometimes longer, depending on what it is. You got to think about the mental therapy too on the other side. So all these soldiers, they're not the same soldiers all the time. That's why President Trump activated different units, and they'll move them around and task out different units. But it's been full blast, full go. So you got to think about all those things too. And, you know, justice, that's what I hear the most out of the people over here. Justice, nothing changes till we see. Justice is the birthday party. Justice is the aftermath, right? You don't see all the people who prepare for it, tables, the tablecloths, the chairs, you know, the cake and the decorations, and the decorations being hung up, and someone had to buy them, someone had to hang them. Justice is the aftermath. You know, justice is a big part, sure, but it's just a component. We want to be able to sustain after that. We want to be able to maintain and sustain after the justice, and then have what? New laws, rules, and procedures that work for all of us, but also don't ever let us fester to this point again. We want to catch it before it even gets there. And that's what's been going on over here.
It is, isn't it? The one thing that we've all had to learn is patience. And as I was watching these movies last night about Trump, he took a lot of abuse from Obama in public places. And he's waited a very, very long time. One thing with Trump, he does like to get even, one way or another, and he'll sit and wait. And he's been waiting a very, very long time to get even with Obama. Now, he's already got even with Obama behind the scenes. He was there when he was executed. But the public will see that towards the end of this year, maybe the beginning of next year. It'll become public. So it's a question of us being patient. He's been far more patient than you'd ever know. And it was very interesting just looking at the characteristics of the man. And it's very interesting also how his father was a massive influence on him, even though he made his own pathway. His father was always there in the background watching, and there almost as a safety net. So we're in a fascinating time. One of the big things right now is that there is distraction everywhere. I was talking in a round table meeting earlier today about the way that Ukraine is being devastated. We know that. We know the amount of people that have been killed there. There's more than 1 million men from the military alone. That's without normal personnel. We don't know what the numbers are because they're hiding them. But suddenly out of the blue, isn't it funny how the Israelis are now going over there and stealing land? And then you look at the people who are stealing land that come from Israel, their original names are Ukrainian and Polish. It's almost like they planned this themselves. Some of this stuff you just can't make up. You know, the Cypriots have got fed up with them turning up there in Cyprus. Too many of them, don't want any more, because they're coming in and just taking land, outbidding everybody because they print their own money. This is what's happened for many, many years. As I had a discussion a few weeks ago with the bank who offered me advice. I asked them why I would look to them for advice when they print their own money and still go bankrupt. Didn't make any sense to me. But we're seeing the light is exposing all of the darkness. But don't be afraid of the darkness, because the darkness is being played out as a pantomime for you to see, so it's not as scary as it would have been in real time. It's not real time. It's already done. We're living through the pantomime. We're seeing it. It's managed. Central casting is in there. The producer and director of this movie is God. When you understand that, You understand everything.
I want to add something really quick, if I can, to the Obama, Israel, and how this all ties in. And like you just talked about, getting even. President Trump, from the get-go, was asked to do this, as we know. You and I know that. And we've told everybody that. But if you'll go back, if people, I've told this yesterday on podcast that'll be aired today, but I'll say that people would go back. Now, I know sometimes military is not for everybody's mind because there's so many variables under your typical regulations and laws of the military. But you kind of have to, if you want to know the real chess playing that's going on. Like, you kind of have to dive into that and kind of force yourself, if you don't enjoy military terms and strategies and tactics and things, you kind of have to force yourself to. And that's what part 2 of my book does, is it dives into the special operations, which is unconventional warfare, and irregular, meaning it's not going to be your conventional, what you've ever traditionally thought of military, because there's a lot of things behind the scenes, meaning clandestine and covert, until they want you to know about it. So, there was no presidential report, none, from December the 20th, 2019, which is when the NDAA put in Section 1550 into the War Powers Act. All right. That was the last presidential report on Iran to the Congress until December 23rd, 2024. So not a single report from 2019 to 2024. Now, your normie will think, 2024, that was still quote unquote Biden. No, that's when you go down and look in the bottom of Section 1550, and it shows quote unquote Biden relinquishing his authority to the Secretary of Defense. Well, the Secretary of Defense is directly under the president. And the only way the Secretary of Defense would have full power is if the president is deceased or died. All right, that's an order of succession. All right, so that's a fact. Also, in all your NDAAs, so all of our U.S. National Defense Authorization Acts, that's our defense budgets, ladies and gentlemen. That's what our Congress allocates for the year before in December for the next year. In every single one of those NDAAs from, we'll just use 2017 to present day, they all escalate with Iran and Israel. There's an escalation of verbiage, meaning there's something coming. All right. And it specifically shows over in one of ours, it shows right before that 1550, which is basically the law that President Trump's working with. Everything under that's when he federalized all the troops. Right before that, it shows a passage with Iran. And it's basically saying it's going to be a strategic operation, not a war. All right. And that's very key. All right. And getting even. The court. So I don't know if you heard, but 2 weeks ago, I got banned from Truth Social for about 5 minutes. It's all happened in like a matter of 5 minutes. I got banned. And I put up the photos of Obama, Osama bin Laden, and Gaddafi. And I had this long write-up that would fit perfect. I've done learned the doggone how many you need on True Social and X, because they limit you on how long you can make a post. And I hate doing part 1, part 2s. So I had this perfect write-up. Boom, they got me like that. Well, it just shows we're right over the target. So the get even part is Supreme Court docket case. It's all public, ladies and gentlemen. You can look this up as we speak. All right, Supreme Court docket. You go to Google, type in Supreme Court docket search, hit enter, and then you get in there, there's a little box. You type in the numbers 23-939, enter. And it's going to pull up this basically docket. Then you click on that, it's going to pull up multiple petitions in there. You scroll down to March 19th where it says 3 military generals, 3 amici curiae. March 19th. There's a few passages for March 19th. When you get in that case, it specifically asked the question, can a president order SEAL Team 6 to commit murder on a political rival, assassinate a political rival? And it says in there, multiple combat generals and senior level officials from the executive branch resounding no. Well, the last time SEAL Team 6 was involved with any president and military would be Obama and Osama bin Laden. All right, and guess who was in that room with President Obama and Biden? Michael Jaco. All right, he and I have already done a special show on this, special show, and where, military don't teach laws and orders. They're going to have to in the future, or they need to promote soldiers knowing what's going on, military law and federal law, but they don't teach. So SEAL Team 6 would have not taken an unlawful order from the standpoint, they don't teach that. If they taught it, it'd be different. All right. But guess who else was, who was, I've been doing it like this. Who was Obama's Secretary of State? Hillary Clinton from 2009 to 2013. And then who died 5 months after? Died 5 months after Osama bin Laden? Gaddafi. Who was the leader of Libya from 1969 to 2011? Gaddafi. Who stood in front of the UN Assembly and said, 5 world powers cannot rule the rest of us? Gaddafi. Who said that they will hang us like they hung Saddam Hussein and they were friends with him? Gaddafi. And they all laughed at him. Assad laughed at him and he fled Syria last year, December 2024. So to show that this is all a plan, even more so, I was going back through all the United States codes and I found this last night. And it's 22 U.S. Code, Chapter 93, Section 8604. Foreign relations. Obama has a passage in here, but I'll just read this really fast. It says, not later than 180 days after July 27, 2012, the president shall submit appropriate congressional committees. Well, that's a report, ladies and gentlemen. The president submits reports to the Congress. But it specifically says right here, efforts to expand cooperation between the United States and Israel in homeland security, counterterrorism, maritime security, energy, cybersecurity, and other related areas. And it says actions to integrate Israel into the defense of the Eastern Mediterranean. Well, guess where all the military aircraft have been flying from to Israel, especially way back in 2023? Cyprus. Well, Cyprus is one of those Eastern Mediterranean. That's what they're talking about. And that's been the portal. Cyprus has been the main portal for every single military back and forth to Israel. It also talks about Egypt. Well, Egypt is in our Army, United States Army publication way back in May 2019, Subterranean Warfare. And it tells specifically in there, Egypt and Gaza cross-border operations. Well, the MFO, the multi-organizational, it's like a peacetime between Israel and other nations. That organization has been flying back and forth from Egypt to Israel, back and forth. So it's been Egypt to Israel and Cyprus to Israel. And this is all back here. So they're taking all of the deep state's playbook that they were just going to keep playing bureaucracy with and keep this stuff drug out, because they've done this for the last 40 and 50 years. Jimmy Carter's Executive Order 12170 with a national emergency in there. 1979, ladies and gentlemen. That thing's been continued every 2 years, older than me. All right, so it shows that Israel and all these other nations, they were just dragging them out. Afghanistan, Iraq, they made those up. 9/11, when people found that out, was all rigged. They made all this stuff up. The real weapons that were being developed was Iran the whole time. See, in Iran, Obama's great deal was supposed to be total enrichment, 3.67%. 3.67. Fordo wasn't supposed to have any nuclear anything. What ended up being the site more hit? Fordo. And then also they had a total of 83.7 enrichment. All right. And they were supposed to have 3.67. And then also in those NDAAs, it shows when quote unquote Biden, when the world thought Biden was president, those NDAAs said they're at 20% in 1 year. Then it said they're at 60%. So Iran, what do it? So if the Republicans over here and the conservatives who jumped ship, if they only knew what they're supposed to know by laws and reports of the law, and if liberals only knew, liberals, it'd be like, well, it was your people. If you thought Biden was real, I'll play devil's advocate for a moment. If you thought Biden was real, here's the reports under him. It says 20%, 60%. Now it's up to 83.7. And in there, it said they're supposed to do what? Comply with whom? International Atomic Energy Agency. They weren't doing that. And there was a report under quote unquote Biden that showed Iran was not doing that. So, I mean, everybody's watching. That's why I tell people, you can watch the crap show with the normies and still hang on to that, or you can see all these pieces were already there. And President Trump took them, and the military took them and intercepted those. They intercepted their evil plans and their reverse psychology, countering them with all that and taking care of stuff that was supposed to be taken care of that didn't. And they were going to drag it out. President Trump and them are. And one other, Syria. We made a trade deal with Syria. Come on, people. Syria, if you knew where Syria was on the map in relation to Israel and Iran and everybody else, and also their play on that, you know that President Trump's the first president to end national emergencies from the deep state. He's ended all these things. He's ending all of them. He's putting a stop to it. All right. So, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're bang
I had
on.
to get that out.
Of course, today Israel has decided to bomb the Ministry of Defense, the Syrian Ministry of Defense in Damascus, which is, the trouble is they've got their fingerprints all over it, so they can't blame anybody else. But Paul, it'd be only fair, seeing as we've got Derek here as well, to see what questions. I've seen there's a lot of people that want to ask questions, so we'll take a load of questions from the insiders for Derek and myself.
Right, okay, here we go. So, hello, Derek, first and foremost. I've got a question from Kathleen Oles. She's curious to know what your thoughts are on why President Trump has so definitively said that the Epstein list is a deep state hoax and won't discuss it. My feeling is he's baiting them, part of the 5D chess game. What are your thoughts, Derek?
Well, a lot, not her specifically, but what a lot of people have done with the Epstein thing is they're bullheaded and they're only looking at 2025. Epstein didn't pop up in 2025. He didn't pop up 2 years ago, 4 years ago. I mean, we're talking about 2008 is when he took a state deal, which means he took a plea deal. All right, not a federal. He took a state in the state of Florida. Who was the president in 2008 in the United States of America? George W. Bush. Mm-hmm. All right. So if you look at the Law of War manual, it's how all this, everything ties in. I even showed the other day how Iran ties in with Epstein. All right. And this is how it does it. If you look at the Law of War manual, this is how military operates and functions. Now, I'm all about justice. I had someone the other day, they got mad at me on a show and it was a Q&A. And they came in there flaming hot, acting like that I didn't want justice for Hillary and all these. I said, look, here's how military looks at it. It's the same thing as days of old. I'm operating mainly sometimes off of my grandfather and great uncles. No one should root for death. No one should root for it. We should be saddened that our world got to this. All right. And that's what we're talking about when you maintain and sustain. Because you should be saddened when someone messes up. You should be saddened when someone slips up. You should be saddened when someone doesn't choose the right path, right? You shouldn't be cheering it on. So how do you separate? Look at the liberals right now. They're cheering and rooting for the assassination of President Trump. They're cheering for it. They want that. they would wake up and love that. All right, how do you separate yourself from that? Because justice is justice. That's not justice. Wanting assassination of President Trump, that's not justice. So what I've been showing people is that, and it ties in for one reason. Epstein, you got to go back to President Trump. This is what I was talking about earlier, and I didn't make the point, but this is a better point for it. If you look at President Trump's photo with Diddy, there's one thing you should notice straight out the gate, and it's not Space Force, and it's not Illuminati for the other side. He's holding the tip of the spear, which is special operations, with Diddy. All right. President Trump has been asked to do this a long time ago. All right. Now, if Charlie and I, or Paul, or whatever, but I'll throw myself under the bus, if we're all guilty by association, just because we've been in a photo with someone who went and chose the wrong path, like, well, we're all guilty. Every one of us is guilty. And it depends on what you call low or big, or little or big. Nothing's little or big to God. It's all the same thing to God. So down here, we call it little or big. But if Mr. Charlie and I were in a bar somewhere, all right, and we're drinking a beer, all right, and another friend, we won't, just an anonymous, is drinking a beer with us, and they got in a vehicle and they wrecked and killed somebody. Does that mean we're all guilty because we were sitting there drinking with them? Because that's what everybody's doing with President Trump, just because he's in a photo. People are cherry picking this one guy, right, straight out the gate, this one person. When child trafficking has been done for many, 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 many years, and also human trafficking, sex trafficking by multiple people that most people don't even know their name or their face. So there's a couple variables what people are doing. They're following the cherry picking process and forgetting about all these other people over here who's trafficked as well that most people wouldn't even know. All right, so there's that. And then you're also making the man guilty by association. All right. Straight out the gate, not looking at all the other photos of the men and women at these parties, cherry picking that one, and also not doing what? Finding all the other photos of people with this man as well. All right, but just because you're in the photo don't mean you're doing what's behind the scenes. People fail to remember that. It's kind of like Instagram. If you look at Instagram, everybody looks happy in all their photos, but no one sees the rest of the life of these people. So what they're doing with this, it's going to open the iceberg with Bush, Clinton, and Obama. But in the Law of War Manual, if you go to the humanitarian section of the Law of War Manual, it says you can't go back 30 and 40 years and try somebody off of something 30 and 40 years ago. Why? Because most of the people are dead by then who were witnesses, key witnesses, and also would have evidence. And even if you had something in writing during that time period, you won't have the witnesses to be able to do that. So you have to try something pretty immediate. So the pretty immediate will be whom right now? Obama will be immediate. All right. So what you do is you tie in all these things. So I just tied in Iran with you, with Obama, and Israel with Obama, and then all roads lead to Obama, as President Trump says. So that's the tip of the iceberg. So Epstein, the whole Epstein, if there is a list, was a list, ain't a list, whatever, it doesn't matter. That's just the tip of the iceberg. All right. What has happened in the last couple of weeks? Now, some people think they've seen Obama on Twitter, X, and all, but he's resurfaced and he's talking trash about President Trump. He's talking trash again. All right. Quote unquote Biden. The auto pins pop back up now. The auto pin's a big deal because that says who was and who ain't and who is and who isn't. Right. So the auto pins resurfaced. All right. And then what did they make Biden say? I made every decision. All right, so now they're starting to tell on themselves slightly and slowly. All right, that's leading. That's setting the stage up. All right, because in a plea deal, in the stalemate game, you make them tell on themselves. All right, all that's going to start unraveling. All right, so the Epstein thing was going to tie into Bush, which is going to allow everything to open up with Bush, Clinton, all right, Bill Clinton, and then Bush can tie into Daddy Bush. And guess who's not in the War Powers Act? Guess who ain't? The Bushes, the Clintons, and Obama. None of their actions with Osama bin Laden, Gaddafi, they're going to tie in because that's Hillary Clinton and Benghazi. All these things are going to open up this massive can of worms to way bigger than just sex trafficking and human trafficking. It's going to go into genocide then. All right, that's going to open all your genocide and your assassinations that were not under law. You hear Bernie Sanders, Jasmine Crockett, and Elizabeth Warren saying what President Trump's doing unconstitutional. He's got a war order over here. All right. They don't have any of those. So this opens the massive can. You want justice? Well, this is what does it. Right. So the Epstein thing is just like the little tip of the iceberg, because what did President Trump say was the greatest scandal in United States history? He didn't say Russia collusion. He didn't say Ukrainian phone call. He said Uranium One is the greatest scandal in United States history. Uranium One is who? Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Obama, and who was his vice president? Biden. That's what opens up everything. So the Epstein thing is he's a poster boy. All right. And you got to remember, in every meeting, President Trump does this. Every meeting and every event, he does tip of the spear, which is special operations. All right. So it's an operation, and that's going to open a massive case of worms. That's what we all want.
Is that why he insisted on reenacting the RICO Act, so that all of these people will be encompassed? The Racketeer, Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act. He can then capture all of them. The question is where Epstein did a plea deal with the Bushes. Does that remove him outside of the RICO Act or not? I don't know. Well, it depends on it. Only they know the big plays that they played and who took plea deals and who didn't and who played along. That's why I told people, look, there's things called fall guys, fall gals, and pawns, and those can work separately and they can work together. Yeah. But it depends on behind the scene. You know this better, but it depends on what they chose and what they were willing to give up. Like something like the quote unquote assassination, ladies and gentlemen. What that could have been, and this is just one variable, but what that could have been was a plea deal gone wrong back here that someone wasn't participating with giving up information, and they caught. And then rightfully so, they're doing what you're supposed to do, is not crack it. So they'll say, okay, well, you're not going to crack, and you're already caught. You're not getting out of here. But here's what we're going to do to you. We're going to make this fall on you down the road. And then you make them watch it in their cell with TVs all around, and you make them watch their name going demise, right, and then fall. So that a lot of people are not. That's why I say you do have to get into the chessboard game and special operations, unconventional, clandestine, covert, to kind of really understand the scope of all this. I've got a fun question for you, Derek. Do you know what the most powerful currency in the world is today? Oh, probably don't know that. Not right now. Blackmail. Oh, yeah, exactly. That's the most powerful currency today in the world. Blackmail, and that is what is being exposed. I should have thought harder, because that's a perfect one for everybody. Yep. It's the most powerful currency. Again, if you're captured by the good guys, you're not getting out of that whatsoever, especially the higher up guys, the generals, the military. You're detained, you're captured, you're not getting out of it. Right. Yep. And so it's a matter of, okay, do you want to live? If you don't have crimes against humanity on you, then if you don't have that, then you have a chance to live. All right. And so some people might be that hardball that says, you know what, kill me. Mm-hmm. And so then they say, well, we will, but here's what's going to happen. You're going to watch all these things. You're going to watch your demise. That's why I try to tell people that you wouldn't want people to die too soon or get justice too soon, because you want them to see their demise, their name trashed with, especially if they use God and the Bible and they were all Christian and they were all this, but they were doing the worst things back here. You let them see their name go down to the people out there that were their followers, their faithful followers. And once you're had, right? Mm-hmm. And so it depends on who played ball and who didn't. And that's why things like assassination attempts could be, a part of someone's demise back here that wouldn't crack. And then you put that on them. And then when it comes out, it's going to come out in history, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we tell people, just relax, enjoy the ride. But if you really want to know, you need to get into
chess playing, and also strategic operations, special operations, tactics that are used. But everything had to be done ethically and morally with President Trump to be separate from Swamp. All right. So ethically and morally on the front. We all know what goes on. Everybody knows what goes on back here, though, to get some things out. But we'll leave that quiet. But
right, I'm going to jump in with some more questions because Derek, you're coming out with some deep answers today. Has anybody got an update on the Brunson case? Quite a few people have asked about that.
No, they closed that case back in February 2024, I think it was, or the last petition I saw, or maybe it was 2025. I'd have to go back and look. I looked at it not long ago, but it said case closed, and then it said another little excerpt there about the government. The government didn't want any part of it, but the government's under a continuity of government, so they already know what's going on. So,
just so you know, that either Paul or myself has an interview with Lloyd Bronson in 1 week's time on the 22nd, Tuesday the 22nd. So, whatever's happening, we'll get a live update from Lloyd. He's been an absolute warrior, bless him. And I'm also going to mention that she may well be watching Dr. Judy Mikovits. She wants to put the record straight about something that was said last week with Dr. Sherry Tenpenny. She'll be with us on the Insiders Club in 2 weeks' time. And I will let her explain everything because it's far better coming directly from Dr. Judy than from Charlie, so that I don't misrepresent what she's saying. So we're looking forward to having Dr. Judy back on because her knowledge is worthwhile and beneficial. And it's very important that we get the information accurate.
My next question, and it's open to either of you. This is from Karen's iPad. Derek or Charlie, why was Israel left for last? And how soon will they deal with Israel?
I don't know the reason behind it. I was just told that 2-3 years ago that Iran would take out Israel and that would be the last move. Now, everything that I was told from 2019 through to 2024 came from the same source. That particular gentleman passed away. But everything that he told me turned out to be accurate. So I have no reason to believe that that's not accurate. I think we're all hoping that Israel is the last hurrah and there's not another one. But that's what I was told, that Iran would take out Israel at the end. And it certainly looks that way as we've sort of commentated our way through it. It's become clearer and clearer. When I must admit, when I was told this, when I started to see this battle between Iran and Israel, I suppose my hopium was that that Israel would have backed off straight away. But it's a bit like Israel's very much like a little Chihuahua, and of course Iran's like a Great Dane. So very, very subtle, but if you yap too much, it'll bite your head off. Anybody who's done any research at all, into the power that Iran has, they could take out Israel in 7 days, completely. They could probably do it in 24 hours. And not with a nuclear weapon or an atomic weapon. They could do it with these hypersonic missiles that can pick you out in your bedroom. And because of the arrogance of Israel and the stupidity of Israel, Iran is being backed by Russia and China. Now, for years and years and years, we've been scared of Russia and China individually. And suddenly now, we've gone on the side of a yappy little dog that's got no power, who dragged us into a war because, they paid us billions of dollars, which they printed. Let's live in the real world. And the minute the shit hits the fan, they bugger off to Cyprus and they claim that's their land. Then they bugger off to Ukraine and steal it and say that's our land. Plenty of room on the moon. Why don't you go there? Oh, no, you can't go there, can you?
Well, and two, President Trump, he said he wasn't happy with either one, so that alludes to right there. But also you take out, it's like when you buy a house, right, that's older, you got to do what? You got to fix the structure first. You don't want to go start painting the shutters. If the structure is not solid, you need to go in there and do what? Take the pillars or whatever it is that holds the house up and fix that. So look at what Obama, Bush, Clinton, all of them, Bushes, all of them, and you have to put Reagan in there somehow. Not he was on the front. So but still, that's why President Trump's delicate with certain presidents as well, because they were all part of this deep state. They were all part of the swamp. Whether they were indirectly or directly, that's the key question. A lot of people thought they could get in there and be an influence, right? So you have to be able to separate those. And so 1979, again, executive order with a national emergency. All right, national emergency means that we have an emergency with this nation. All right, so that was Jimmy Carter with Iran in 1979. So what were they doing? What were the deep state, the bureaucrats, the quote-unquote diplomacy, what were they promising Iran all those years? That's what we don't know specifically unless you're part of that. Right. So what were they doing? They were building up nuclear facilities while we were in Bosnia, Kosovo, Somalia. Well, it was Iraq, Bosnia, Kosovo, Somalia. And then we go into Iraq again, Afghanistan, because of quote unquote 9/11, the weapons of mass destruction. Look at what all they were spewing to the people while Iran's over here chanting death to America, death to Israel, death to America, death to Israel, building up nuclear. All right. So you take out the biggest dog. My dad always told me, if you're ever in a fight and there's bullies, you take out the biggest one first. And if you can whoop his ass, the others will run away. All right. So most of the time. Right. So that's a thing to look at. Now, Israel may and may not need to be dealt with weapons wise. We don't know yet. But looks like that President Trump, again, the deal was made a long time ago. So the way he talks about Netanyahu and the things of that nature, we had to take out Iran first, and now we'll see what Israel's got. But it's just because of the play on for the last 45 years that's been Israel, Iran, Israel, Iran, Israel. It wasn't Russia and Ukraine, Israel, Iran. So, it's kind of like that. But, now President Trump's going hard on Putin. But that would have been Putin's capitulation deal July 16, 2018. All this has been planned. It's just letting it play out.
You're absolutely right. And most of the stuff that's out there is purely for the deep state, because there's trap after trap after trap being set. And I don't think anybody believed they'd jump in with both feet to every single one, but that's exactly what they have done. Every single time a trap is set, they jump in. And I've been told a few times just to back off a bit because they watch our show. They watch our show to find out what's going on. Because in the mainstream, and a lot of the powerful American channels that are out there, they are full of disinformation, misinformation, and malinformation that is set to trap. Now, for those people who have been with me for a long time, you'll remember that I was given information some time ago about certain things, and then I was told afterwards it was done to entrap certain people. I have no problem with that at all. I just wish they'd told me that beforehand, but it had to be authentic. This is the art of war. And just for the record, had a conversation earlier, and it looks like General Michael Flynn will be on with us in August. So we look forward to him joining us on the Insiders Club. He's a very, very good man, but he can explain the art of war for those people that are still trying to work it out. A bit like me, trying to work out the art of war, because there are many different facets to it, many different dimensions to it. and you have to have a very, very switched on brain to fully grasp fifth dimensional warfare.
I've got an interesting question here from K Stringfellow. Charlie or Derek, can you talk about NEOM? I'm hearing people talk about NEOM and Vision 2030 City in Saudi Arabia. Never heard that.
Is that the line in Saudi Arabia, NEOM? I don't know.
It quite possibly could be.
I've heard
Derek,
of the
what are your
2030,
thoughts
plan.
on the new Syrian leader? Oh, sorry, buddy.
Oh, no, it's okay. I mean, I've heard of the 2030 plan, but not NEOM in particular, but I've heard of the 2030 plan. But
Yeah.
it would just be you're maintaining and sustaining, over here.
Yep. I've got a question here from, where was it? Simon. Derek, what are your thoughts on the new Syrian leader, al-Sharia?
The new Syrian leader?
Yeah.
I mean, everything that you're seeing from here out is going to be all President Trump related. Well, actually, your generals as well, moving forward. Because look, let's just be honest. If they kept this, I don't want to use it, I hate saying it like that, but if this kept going, then no one will be able to differentiate between the past and the present, in the swamp and the present. So, everything from here forward, after they get done with the Israel-Iran thing, there shouldn't be anybody else. Maybe Taiwan. I mean, that's still popping up a little bit. Taiwan, China. But other than that, everything from new leaders moving forward, all these trade deals being made, the trade deal with Syria, all these things are great signs for your golden age of what President Trump calls the golden age, moving forward. So, now there's always discrepancies. There's always people who do what? The lust of money. But that would be on them if they fall that way, not anything to do with President Trump.
Derek, this is from anonymous attendee. Are we under the new US Constitution now?
Well, I mean, we're under a new for sure, but I mean, as far as the Constitution goes, the original Constitution is going to stand. It's just a matter of there's a lot of laws on paper that need to be abolished, no doubt. And I've been explaining that over and over, the difference in the original Constitution and then the laws and then the orders. They're all separate in one way, but they all coincide in the other. But the Constitution still stands, and we're under a newer republic, and you can always have a newer declaration of that republic. Because we have gone through a fundamental reset, not a change, but we've gone through a fundamental reset.
Charlie, I've got a question from Jennifer. What is the status of Taiwan? Is China still an imminent threat to it?
The one thing I will say with China and Taiwan is they're doing what Russia and Ukraine should be doing, and they're communicating. When people understand the situation with Taiwan, Taiwan is the hub for child trafficking and for bioweapons in that part of the world, the same as Ukraine was for Europe. The problem is with the Ukrainian situation, because of the damage that's been done there, the hub's now moved to Hungary. And if I go back in my life to 35 years ago, when I was involved with the security of prisons and closed-circuit television, cameras don't stop crime. They just move it somewhere else. What's happening now? We're seeing everything being completely dismantled so it never can react or come back again. And that's very important. There's no point just moving the problem. So in Taiwan, they don't want that to move to another little island or to another location. They want to end child trafficking and bioweapons. The same with Ukraine. But because Ukraine has been pumped up by the people who benefit from the child trafficking, the EU, financially, and from the bioweapons, the EU, the UK, because they benefit, they're defending it. This is what you're not being told. But the whole idea of this is not to just stop Ukraine doing child trafficking and bioweapons, it's to stop everybody doing it. The deep state depend on it, the cabal depend on it, but this is the whole transition of the collapse of the US dollar, which it will 100% collapse, and so will the euro, because they are the only two currencies in the world that are used for human trafficking and drugs. And that must come to an end. And the easiest way to stop it is to stop using US dollars and euros. And of course, the Americans go, oh, we've controlled the world with dollars for years. Yeah, you have. But you haven't done a good job. You know, when you put these sanctions on Russia, your economy collapsed and Russia's boomed. If you're gonna hold people to account, there's different ways. There's many ways to skin a cat, as they used to say. And sometimes brute force and ignorance is not the way. And the world has now woken up to the fact that your brute force and ignorance to so many countries has not worked. And you've lied about why you're doing it. Weapons of mass destruction, nuclear enrichment plants. They're all lies. The same game plan. The truth is because they won't come under the Federal Reserve. They won't come under the Rothschild and the Rockefeller banking corporation. That's why you say they're doing this, that, and the other. When we get down to the hard facts, we find out the truth. But Trump is having to play the game. So is General Flynn, because it's the art of war. If you're going to infiltrate a drug ring, you have to become a dealer. You have to deal with everybody. You have to infiltrate. And Trump has been doing that now for many, many years. Infiltrating, seeing what's going on. The hard work's been done. Everything has been done behind the scenes. Now, you're watching the movie. Your job is to buy popcorn and shut up and watch and enjoy, not to get involved. So if you're going to get involved, you're going to get hurt. Enjoy the movie, enjoy the show. And Derek, thank you very much for joining us.
It's good to be here. That's right.
Well, take care, everyone. Have a wonderful evening and see you all soon.